What is up, guys? I'm Paul Walker from the GH Spoilers YouTube channel, coming to you at 3 a.m. while the New York City rain absolutely hammers my window. Today's update is absolute madness. Josslyn's captivity just ended in a literal bloodbath, and the Corinthos family is directly in the crosshairs. Let's dive straight into this chaos. Okay, I literally cannot believe this. Can we please process this mess together? I just hit record at 3 a.m. because this grueling, decade-long journey has finally pushed me completely over the edge, and I am spiraling. I am severely sleep-deprived, my coffee is cold, my notes are scattered everywhere, and I've decided to completely ditch the script. I am breaking all the filters tonight because I seriously can't stay silent about this anymore. There are legacy characters carrying this entire show on their backs, while others are single-handedly testing my sanity, and I am here to call every single one of them out. We are talking about raw, unfiltered hard truths tonight, people. Please tell me I'm not the only one losing my mind over this. Look, we need to talk about what is happening down in the Wyndemere catacombs because the vibe has officially redlined. Basically, Josslyn Jax has been locked in that damp, miserable stone cell, the exact same cell that once held the legendary Anna Devane. And honestly, the historical parallels here are a total game changer. Josslyn is pacing around this subterranean nightmare, losing her mind when suddenly she notices something off about the architecture. A loose brick. Listen, when you are trapped in a Cassadine dungeon, you check every single crack in the wall. She pulls the brick away, and what does she find? An old, heavy, cold piece of steel. A gun. A literal gun hidden behind the masonry, probably left over from some ancient Phazon or Cassadine plot from decades ago. My jaw hit the floor. This is a major flex for the writers, tying the past to the present in such a lethal way. Suddenly, the heavy iron door groans open. Cassius, this absolute fraud, walking around wearing Nathan West's face, which honestly makes me sick to my stomach every time I see it, walks in carrying a tray of food. Look, Cassius has been testing my sanity for months. He strides in with this unearned arrogance, setting the tray down and immediately launching into this delusional, psychotic monologue about his grand future. He is Luyen Thuyen, just endlessly rambling about his crazy plans, his endgame, how he's going to manipulate Lulu, and how Josslyn is just a pawn in his twisted little game. Wait, why are we like this? Why do we give these villains the floor to monologue when we know it's going to backfire, basically? He is so high on his own supply that he completely ignores the fact that Josslyn is no longer the terrified college student she was yesterday. She is a Corinthos by association, a Jax by blood, and she is holding a hidden piece of iron that is about to change the entire landscape of Port Charles. Listen to me, the tension in this scene is absolute terminal velocity. Josslyn doesn't panic. She doesn't scream. Honestly, she executes a tactical maneuver that is a total game changer. She slowly, methodically backs up, luring Cassius away from the door and directly into the blind spot of the two-way mirror. She knows that whoever might be watching from the other side, if anyone is even there, cannot see this specific corner of the room. It is a brilliant, high-octane move. Cassius steps into the trap, still running his mouth, still thinking he holds all the cards, and then suddenly Josslyn makes her move. She pulls the gun. Whoa, I've really gone off chasing butterflies into another dimension here. I am sweating just thinking about the framing of this shot. Bringing the signal back, let's stick to the script. Or rather, the lack of one. The physical struggle that ensues is a raw frame that packs a lethal crunch. Cassius realizes what is happening a split second too late. He lunges at her. They are grappling the shadows of this ancient cell hands, fighting over the cold metal of the old gun. Josslyn is fighting with the sheer, unadulterated desperation of a woman who refuses to die in a basement. It's a violent, chaotic, hyper-casual mess of limbs and survival instincts, and then bang. The gunshot echoes through the stone corridors of the Wyndemere catacombs like a sonic boom. I literally jumped out of my chair when this happened. The energy hits absolute terminal velocity. The flash of the muzzle illuminates the dark room for a fraction of a second, and in that flash, we see the shock register on Cassius's face. The bullet tears straight through his chest. He stumbles backward, gasping his eyes wide with the realization that his grand, delusional future just evaporated into thin air. He collapses to the cold stone floor, and suddenly a dark, crimson pool of blood begins to spread around him. Cassius is down. He is bleeding out. He is done. Honestly, I need a pause because my heart is beating out of my chest. Josslyn Jax just caught a body. She's standing there, chest, heaving the gun, shaking in her hands, staring down at the man who kidnapped her. tormented her, and held her hostage. The psychological fallout of this moment is going to be massive. She is Bang Huang, completely horrified and shell-shocked by what she has just done. She is officially a killer. It was self-defense, absolutely. But the trauma of taking a human life is going to haunt her forever. Look, I kind of feel bad for Cassius. Because his whole life was a lie. Wait, no. I absolutely do not feel bad for him. The guy was a monster who kidnapped a young woman. See, I am contradicting myself because I am overflowing with emotion. And I am just organizing my thoughts in real time as I write this. Basically, he got exactly what was coming to him, but the burden now falls on Josslyn's shoulders. But listen, Josslyn doesn't have time to process this existential dread. She cannot stand there staring at the blood. She has to move, and she has to move now. The gunshot was loud. It is only a matter of time before Jen Sidwell's heavily armed goons hear the noise and descend upon the catacombs. What follows is a high-octane, terrifying escape sequence. Josslyn is running through the dark, winding, labyrinthine tunnels beneath Wyndemere. She is navigating a literal underground maze, her breath echoing off the damp walls, shadows dancing everywhere. Every single footstep feels like it could be her last. She's fueled by pure adrenaline and the low-key obsession with just seeing her family again. She manages to slip past the security perimeters, dodging Sidwell's men who are now swarming the island looking for the source of the gunshot. It is a masterclass in suspense. Meanwhile, the narrative betrayal here is that this single gunshot is about to ignite a powder keg in Port Charles. The death of Cassius on Spoon Island is not just going to be brushed under the rug. The PCPD, led by the newly debuted detective Joe Fitzpatrick and Dante Falconeri, are going to turn this into a massive, Chundorng, earth-shattering investigation. And guess who the evidence is going to point to? The Corinthos family. Because of course it will. The moment a body drops in this town, the police immediately look at Sonny Corinthos and his organization. The heat is going to be astronomical. Dante is going to be torn between his duty as a cop and his loyalty to his family. The entire power structure of the city is about to be tested. Look, the climax of this episode is what really broke me. Josslyn somehow makes it off the island. She's covered in dirt, shivering, traumatized, and running on fumes. She bursts through the back door of Carly's house. Carly's in the kitchen, already out of her mind with worry because Josslyn has been missing. The moment Carly sees her daughter, the emotional dam breaks. Josslyn collapses into Carly's arms and just completely breaks down. She tells Carly everything. The kidnapping, the cell, the loose brick, the gun, the struggle, and the fact that Cassius is lying dead in a pool of blood beneath Wyndemere. Carly's reaction is a lethal crunch of pure, unadulterated motherly rage. Carly is furious. She is absolutely, violently enraged that Jen Sidwell dared to orchestrate this horrific nightmare. Sidwell thought he could play God with Carly's daughter. Sidwell thought he could use Josslyn as a pawn in his sick game. Carly's eyes go completely dark. This is the Carly we know and love, the fierce, protective lioness who will burn the entire world to the ground to protect her cubs. Pace in the kitchen, running her hands through her hair, processing the fact that her daughter is now a fugitive who just committed a homicide, even if it was self-defense. Then comes the ultimate dilemma, the question that hangs in the air like a guillotine. Josslyn and Carly look at each other, the weight of the world crashing down on them. Do they tell Sonny? Honestly, this is where the plot spiral gets so real. If they tell Sonny the truth, that Jen Sidwell's operation led to Josslyn being kidnapped and forced to kill a man, Sonny will not hesitate. He will not call the cops. He will not file a lawsuit. Sonny Corinthos will declare an all-out mob war on Jen Sidwell. The streets of Port Charles will literally run red with blood. Sonny will mobilize every enforcer he has, and he will wipe Sidwell off the face of the earth. But doing so would put the entire family in even more danger. It would validate the PCPD's investigation. It would drag Josslyn deeper into the mob violence she has spent her entire life trying to escape. But basically, if they don't tell Sonny, how do they cover this up? How do they hide a dead body on Wyndemere? How do they protect Josslyn from Joe Fitzpatrick, who is already proving to be a ruthless detective with a hidden agenda? Carly is weighing these impossible options. She wants to handle it herself. Maybe leverage Valentine Cassidy's help, since Valentine is already knee-deep in this mess with the paralyzed Jack Brennan hidden in her attic. But Josslyn is terrified. She is looking at her mother, begging for a solution that doesn't involve more death. Might delete this later, but I seriously can't stay silent about how brilliant and terrifying this setup is. The writers have backed the Corinthos women into a corner, and there is no clean way out. The psychic damage I am taking from analyzing this is immeasurable. I am dumping this unedited 3 a.m. rant onto the digital hive mind because I need you guys to witness my existential collapse. We are watching the destruction of innocence and the birth of a new, darker era for Josslyn Jax. She is no longer just the privileged girl next door. She is a survivor of the Wyndemere catacombs. A woman who pulled the trigger to save her own life. Listen, tomorrow's episode is going to be the most stressful hour of television we have seen in a decade. Will Carly call Sonny and unleash the beast? Will they try to bury the truth? Only for Detective Fitzpatrick to find the blood in Anna's old cell. Will Jen Sidwell realize his pawn is dead and come looking for revenge? I am literally shaking. Drop your theories in the comments because I am going to be awake for the next 48 hours, obsessing over this. Stay tuned, stay hyped, and pray for Josslyn Jax because the storm hasn't even started yet.